Miss Marvel. So Miss Marvel. We left off, I think, on episode 2 or 3. We have reviews for the beginning episodes, like the first kind of episode 1, episode 2 on YouTube now. You all can check it out. YouTube.com, The Afternoon Tune. Miss Marvel is the new Disney Plus MCU show right there, following the character of Kamala Khan, who is Miss Marvel. This details the story of a Pakistani girl living in America, specifically New Jersey. And you will hear a lot of Bon Jovi playing because Bon Jovi in New Jersey is basically Jesus. So you will hear a lot of kind of music like that playing throughout the series of Bon Jovi music. And there was some controversy of this show about when it was kind of in its production and kind of getting into the show about the power change that Kamala Khan has here, where in the comics she's an Inhuman, where she kind of has stretching abilities, embiggening, where she, kind of this embiggening power that she kind of has. Here it's presented like she has like a bracelet, where she kind of has this, what's called hard light. Basically, it kind of looks like a Green Lantern-esque type power. I talked about it when we reviewed the first episode. Wasn't, now that you're hearing what the creator talked about, what the intention of the power is, seeing the powers kind of in the show, I was like, yeah, I kind of could have seen they could have kind of kept that. But I think, the series has a good charm to it. I like the lead of the series. I think she's basically having the time of her life playing this character. We talked about how much of she, the actress herself is a fan of this MCU stuff, is a fan of the comics and of the character of Miss Marvel. And with watching the show, Nick described it as a Disney Channel show, which wasn't necessarily a slight at the show because I think a lot of some of the Disney Channel stuff can be good. Like back in our day, we had That's So Raven, we had Even Stevens. We had shows like that we very much liked and enjoyed. So I don't think it was a slight at that show to call it like a Disney Channel show. I think in some ways it's a compliment.
No. When I said that, I meant it in the best compliment possible. It was reminding me a lot of stuff like That's So Raven, like Sweet Life, Zack and Cody.
Yeah. So I think it does have that very much that tone here. Very much like her family in this. And I think the best parts of the show for me are not really the superhero stuff. It's more of just the family stuff. It's more of just the culture stuff. Mm-hmm. It's more of seeing, that. Like when they do I think it was episode 4, I believe it was, when they do the wedding.
Great.
I thought that was really cool, like seeing that wedding. It's like, damn, that looks like a badass wedding. It looked like a wedding I kind of want to go to, hang out in.
You had a traditional Pakistani Muslim wedding on fucking Disney.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of very cool. I think that stuff interests me more than actually the superhero stuff. The superhero stuff in general, it's kind of meh for me. I think it's just kind of okay where she kind of uses her powers and fights this villain. Some people were saying that this villain is not very interesting. So the villain that you have in this series is Najma, is how you pronounce it. It turns out she's the, it's kind of like a twist where, the relationship he has, like the crush on this guy that she's been crushing on in school. Cameron, that's the rapper.
Cameron.
Yeah, she has this crush on this guy at school, and turns out, he's kind of been working to kind of get close to her a little bit because, of her family history and legacy. And his mother turns out to be one of the villains of it. A lot of people saying they didn't like the villain of this series. What do you guys think about the villain kind of? Because it's kind of two villains. It's kind of them, and then it's also kind of Damage Control. What do you kind of guys think about that?
I think the villains have kind of just all of these Disney Plus shows. I feel like because they are so restricted to only doing 6 episodes, in 6 like 35 to 45 minute episodes, you don't get time with the villain. Even a villain I like Arthur Harrow Knight, he doesn't really have a depth to it.
Dust?
Um, the villains in this series are very underwhelming. We don't know any of their motivation. We don't know why they're doing what they're doing. We don't know why they're on a timetable at one point. They're like, we need to do this now. No more waiting. Why? You've waited this long. Why does it matter? What are the stakes? We need to know a lot more of what being this or who she's related to, why this matters. We need to know a lot more of what this new power you've set up, these new characters. We really don't get that. So when they try to enact injustice or they try to speed things along, they just seem dumb. And they change that in such a dime that you're like, wow, you're not even going to try with nuance that you were at least trying to go to at first. And if I'm going to be honest, we've all seen up to the penultimate episode, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're doing spoilers, by the way, for these
Right,
episodes.
right. So I just don't know. Yeah, with just the villains, I don't know. I will say the best part actually for me, the first two episodes are okay. The third episode started off actually the first half being kind of strong. At least it started to see like the series is kind of finding its footing maybe a little bit. I will say everything with Abu, her father, is fantastic. I love the guy who plays him. He's a fun character, and he has such a. There's one moment where he's talking to Kamala's brother. I'm trying to find the actor who plays him.
Oh, hey, thank you.
You
Thank
can
you
just
for
call him the Beard.
Yeah, the
100
beard. Amir Khan. The actor is Sagar Sakia. He has this great little moment where he's like talking about how much money he has in his account, and he's about to get married, and he has so little after graduate school, and Abu just gives this great monologue of what it means to be a man and what it means to share love and to have faith and encourage oneself, and that choosing to be with family is a very brave thing.
Her father's name is Yusuf, I think.
Yusuf Khan, he
Yeah.
also known as Abu because that's just the term, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Played by Mohan Kapoor, does a fantastic job
Yeah.
as the dad. It's just one of those nice little scenes. Her friend Nakia, played by Yasmin Fletcher. Now I don't know why she got a lot of crap early on because she was Lebanese American and a mixed race. Very similar to Fletcher. As the
Thank
actual
you for the
actress.
100
People were
bits
mad
there,
about that.
Callan. Yeah, we are doing spoilers for Miss Marvel up to episode
She does
5.
who as well in the comics version. She's Turkish American, and people are upset about that. I don't know why you're upset at. She's one of the better acted characters in this show. She's very good at showing this a strong, confident character, while at the same time having good, like, vulnerable feminine traits and being nervous as a teenager would in changes. I think, yeah, the characters around her are all right. The only character I would say that actually I don't quite really dig or I don't know what they're really doing with this character and the relationship is Bruno, who's played by Matt Lintz. And he
Yeah.
does fine with the role, but I just don't understand what their dynamic is, what's going on with these characters, and why he's this loyal to
Yeah.
to Kamala. I really don't get their dynamic relationship.
Yeah. I think Bruno for me is one of the weakest supporting members here. It's a lot of it is because they're doing the whole, he's a friend, but he's got a crush on her thing. I think they should have just made it where he's just a flat out friend, like in Shang-Chi,
Yeah.
where it's Aquafina and Simon Liu, like they're just friends. There's no hint of any romantic nature there, because I think that story beat is kind of tired of him being friends with the girl, and then he's got a crush on her, and then he's jealous of, that she's attracted to this guy, and you know what I mean, and the guy, he fucks with him, and you know what I mean, he keeps calling him different names and stuff, Brian and Scott and Todd and Peter Parker, and he keeps calling his all of them motherfucking different names. It's just like, yeah, okay, I think a lot of that stuff is pretty tired with him. And then the fact that also he's a super genius, you always got to have the guy in the chair.
Yeah, that actually bothered the heck out of me. Where there's many points she's like, "Oh, interdimensions." And then he's like, "Pause," and I audibly went, "What the? How are you gonna throw that at somebody? That's all theoretical." And he's like, "Well, maybe I've read something maybe about that and whatever." And I'm like, "No, no, no! Shut up! Completely! You are a high schooler. you are a high schooler. How are you knowing all this? And then there's like in that one point, the plot point where it's just like, oh, you're gonna go to college and everything's paid. You're gonna go to one of the best technology schools. He's like, but it's in California, and I'm like, even though I was the guidance counselor, where I'm like, hey, remember this is the main character point where you're gonna get something and you're gonna move on in life, and this is what you're all been working towards. That's this moment, and this is where you say yes.
Yeah.
It's like there's nothing to think about. It's like, what do you, Jersey will still be here when you get back. Jersey ain't going nowhere. It's been through like 5 different cataclysmic events. It'll be fine.
Nick, what do you?
Jersey's still here after Endgame.
Exactly.
It's gonna be here for a while.
Yeah. Nick, what do you think about that? About her supporting kind of cast members there with her friends and everything like that?
I think the supporting cast, I think it's one of the stronger ones of these Marvel Disney Plus shows. Even if with a character I don't really understand where he's going with Bruno, I think the actor is giving a lot to that role. I like all the character dynamics except for the villain, who is by and large the weakest part of this show.
Yeah. In this last couple of episodes, so did you like when she traveled to Pakistan, and then the whole kind of last episode was just purely just backstory, which was just a flashback showing her great grandmother, who the actress who plays her great grandma. A lot of people were like, she is
Newish,
absolutely
Hayat
Hurston.
Oh my god, she is absolutely stunning.
Oh my god.
yeah.
Even for her age, she is absolutely stunning. Yeah, Newish Hayat, which plays Aisha, her great grandmother. She is she's only I don't know, 34. My goodness, she is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just woga.
Yeah. Stunning, just stunning face. Absolutely stunning face.
Yeah, absolutely. She has the kind of face that you like. That's what cinema is made for.
Yeah.
You were made to look at a camera to be like enchant anyone you look at.
Yeah.
God damn.
What did you think about that episode? You guys, because yeah,
She's a more compelling character than Kamala, if I'm gonna be honest.
I wouldn't go that far. I think her
joking.
story was more interesting than Kamala's had been up to that point, at least as far as the whole, talking about history and talking about the British occupation of India and Pakistan. In drawing that line. And I think how the episode ends, I think, is really strong. With Muniba, who's played by Zenobia Shroff, finally realizing that Kamala's got powers now. I thought that was handled really strong. Besides that, that's about it.
Okay. What do you think about the stuff with damage control?
It feels like an after.
Okay. Dust?
So, this series, it's like 3 different shows at once. One story is about a kid from New Jersey who gets superpowers, and it's a small origin story about how they gain superpowers and then how they deal with it on a very small scale, similar to Spider-Man in that aspect, and trying to figure out responsibility while also working around their own culture and family. And then the other story is about a story of a band group who tries to protect their culture and their people from the unseen and those that would try to sneak their way into our dimension, or those from the shadow or jinn. And it's very almost kind of like very Pakistani, very Middle Eastern kind of style group that wants to protect it. And then we have a third story about a romantic story about a being who came from another world that fell in love and decided to build a life on this world instead of going home. But it gets taken from her as things starts ratcheting up, as the others from her world want her to send them back, and she has the key to it, and she doesn't want to give it up in fear of knowing what will happen when they lock the door. And this show doesn't know which one it wants to choose. It doesn't know what it wants to be. And instead of just being one show, it tries to put all that in there. And I remember watching episode 4. after making it through all those episodes and going, when I saw like the graffiti on in around the Pakistani city, and I'm going, I can see they so badly want her to be the new Spider-Man. They so badly want her to be, and there's the potential there, but something's missing. Something, it needs to have a much more coherent center. I think having a character who is of that nature of Pakistani, learning about apartheid, having those other connections, that feels like season 2 or 3 development.
Mm-hmm.
That feels like stuff that should have been brought in later after you've had a center core of a character who is very down to earth, tries to do her best, and you all relate to her as a character as she's getting better as a hero and she finds herself, and she does have that connection. And then as time goes on, we have this built up moment, and then maybe later down the line, these other things get built up. Maybe at first we don't know, oh, she's being kind of trained at, like, oh, you need to join us, and they offer the help, the red band or whatever they're called. We're gonna help, the Red Daggers. We're gonna help you out and stuff. And then she learns what the clandestine really are, and then what it means to be a Jinn, and all these things. And that could have built up, but it's all being done in like 6 episodes. And by episode 5, I'm like, well, the series is done.
Yeah.
There's no story left.
It's the problem with all of these Disney Plus shows, except for like maybe Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and even WandaVision to an extent, is that you're trying to cram so much into 6 episodes. You can't possibly give the time necessary to all of it.
Yeah. It's also the pacing. The pacing for the first couple of episodes is really bad.
I thought for at least the first 2, maybe 3.
Yeah, it's the opposite.
That was tight.
I know. We have the opposite feeling on it. But I'm going to be honest. The first episode is super boring. I'm not asking for superpowers, but I do need, there needs to be something kind of in there to really kind of get... I needed a little bit more. I feel like that 6th episode, we could have had a little bit more focus on Kamala as a person first and foremost. Really get their dynamic first before powers even get introduced. That would have been really better to solidify her as a person and her beliefs and other aspects first, her family dynamic, really thoroughly. And then you kind of slowly bring it up. And not until episode... not as really until episode 2 to then the powers start showing, and then she's kind of learning, and before this kind of big moment happens, I don't know. It feels like it's fully too quick, fully rushed, and the moments with the family that are somewhat good, it does feel almost kind of ungrateful in others, or too rushed in others. I don't know. I understand family dynamics are all different, and other families are more prudish than others and other families. I completely get that. But there were other ways to get out of certain situations, and they felt very cringy and very, why are we doing this?
Hey,
why
is this? My mom's a Filipino immigrant, so other immigrant parents, that felt real to me.
With this series, I think the first, couple episodes of it, I like kind of what they were doing with the style of it, where, how she was daydreaming.
That stops after really episode 3.
I kind of liked how she was kind of daydreaming, everything like that, and kind of animating, and then kind of those things. I kind of like that style they did.
The first 2 episodes, it kind of felt like Marvel's answer to something like Scott Pilgrim versus the World, which that was a really big standout thing against kind of the sameness of this phase of the MCU, which I don't know why you dropped that.
Yeah. And we'll discuss phase 4, a little bit of that, probably all that stuff tomorrow to get into phase 4 of this Marvel stuff. Because the final film, I guess, in phase 4, what is it? Is it Black Panther 2? Is that the final?
I think it's supposed to be Fantastic Four.
Oh, is that supposed to be okay. Okay. So we'll get into all that stuff there. Spoiler discussion tomorrow with Thor: Love and Thunder. With this kind of, it's the 6-episode format has a stranglehold on Disney. This Disney Plus stuff they're doing with these superhero shows. At first, it kind of seemed kind of fun, like an idea. It's hey, we're doing these Disney Plus series, and we're gonna do these characters, and it's gonna be these 6 episodes, little mini series. Oh, okay, that's fun. It's cute. All right. But it's not I don't think a lot of these series. It's not allowing the creators to tell a good story. And it's really feels a lot of places feels rushed and underdeveloped and undercooked. And the fact that it only has one more episode left and they have to do so much, and then they don't make those last episodes an hour and a half or. You know what I mean? They don't. I guess they don't have the pool like Duffer Brothers, where they say "fuck it," 2 hours, 2 hours of nothing but Stranger Things episodes. They just go like, "Hey, listen."
Which is strange because Feige has made Disney much money. He has made them all of the money in the world. You figure that would be like carte blanche, do whatever the fuck you want with all these shows.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a Kevin Feige decision. Like these have to be 6 episodes an hour. I don't know. I don't know what decision there is or who's making that. But yeah, I think it's in a detriment to these series. Yeah, we'll review the final episode when it comes out next week. We'll give our thoughts on that. So what are the feeling right now for you guys with this series now that it's 5 episodes in?
I feel like I'm disappointed with this last episode because I thought Ms. Marvel started out so strong in how it was introducing a lot of these character dynamics between Kamala Khan and her friends and family. And now it's kind of just devolved into, I don't even know what the fuck you're going.
Yeah. And it's kind of they're building to like end of the world type stakes, which I don't think you have to do that with the Miss Marvel show or these Disney Plus series. Like you don't have to have like end of the world type stakes. And it seems like that's what they're kind of doing.
And let's be honest, most of the plot with Kamala is probably going to be an afterthought in the next, and the rest of it is basically just going to be set up for Kamala to appear in the Marvel.
You think Brie Larson is showing up in the final episode?
Who knows?
Yeah, probably. I don't know. Maybe not. Yeah, probably. Dusk.
What started off what could have just been an okay show is kind of devolving and kind of going all over the place and not really finding a good ground to stand on. I'm also confused on what exactly her Jinn powers can do, and of all the descriptions of what Jinn are capable of doing mysticism, creating like shiny light and stones is kind of lame if I'm going to be honest. I don't know, when Jinn can be described as something as cool as demons of smokeless fire, you've got so much out there to do something fun with. And I know this was never going to do something truly extreme, but the show also didn't really need a villain. You just needed a character who was going through things and then learned humility and strength and became a hero, even though she came from a smaller neighborhood.
Yeah.
Regardless of where they are, regardless of New Jersey or that crap, that doesn't matter. It's just a character doing the right thing for the right reasons in a world that could use one. And then, like, if you want to add the DoD effect, make them kind of the bad guys. Because honestly, ever since Homecoming and such for Spider-Man, they've just been jerks. And I get where they're coming from on some aspect, but they've just been handling it. There's like an entire point where they just show up in a mosque, a religious house, and they're like, "All right, just search the premises." And then she brings up, "You can't do that. Like legally, you can't do any of that. You'll need a warrant." And they're like, "No, I see you read your rights." And I'm like, you could sue them for that right then and there because they tried to do something illegally. They're an afterthought, and I'm also going to be honest. I know they hired the character. The guy who plays the male agent, he just has the most punchable face you'd ever met in your life.
Yeah, I forgot that actor.
He's just like
he was.
I don't know that actor. He reminds me of Ethan Klein from H3H3, and he's just also a very punchable person.
Oh yeah, I could kind of see the resemblance a little bit. Yeah, I think like you said. I mean,
he does kind of resemble that guy, and he also plays a very similar
Succession. That was the show that he was on. Oh yeah. That people said he was from. Yeah, I think this season it's like a mix of like season 2 stuff and season 1 stuff. Like it's like this stuff and material, her going really into her backstory like this and all this stuff. It's like feels a lot like season 2 material, and then some of it with season 1, where I think season 1 should have been like mainly the high school stuff and her being a kid and doing the superhero stuff like Dust said, and Damage Control could have been the bad guys, and it's like, okay, who's investigating, who's this hero who's doing this and trying to find them, and her just doing small level stuff, you know what I mean, and stopping a burglary, or stopping a mugger, or you know what I mean, something like that. It's like just kind of small level stuff. And the fact that she's kind of going up against these people who've been on Earth for what, hundreds, thousands of years, and she's kind of beating them up. Even if it's kind of accidentally, it's kind of like, okay. I mean, I don't know about all that, but yeah, but yeah, I mean, just for a series, I think start off pretty good. I think pretty strong. Yeah, I mean, this episode 5, I wasn't really digging it all that much. But thank you, Miss Marvel, for introducing me to the great grandmother. Thank you for that. She is absolutely stunning. So thank you for that.
G-Gilf.
Yeah. All right. So that was Miss Marvel, episode 5 review.